welcome to 40k Memes. What's on the docket today, Manuel?
Never did anything wrong.
As far as the villain team goes, did the least wrong.
There's a lot of talk that Magnus did nothing wrong, but not much talk of what he did do wrong if he did indeed do anything wrong. So what was that? Well, in order to answer that, I need to go all the way back to the beginning. Way back when the Emperor created 20 sons, 2 of which we don't talk about, to carry out his plans for mankind, his grand plans, because he could only ever be in one place at one time, so he needed some underlings. These were the Primarchs. Not all these Primarchs were created equal. Each of them had special capabilities befitting their role. Corvus Corvax was a master of stealth and going unnoticed. Rowboat Gorilla Man had an innate ability for organization, administration, and tactical warfare. Mortarion was resilient. Perturabo had autism, so on, and so on. And Magnus the Red was a psyker. Other Primarchs had psychic abilities too, but Magnus was the psychic. His skills were up there with the Emperor himself. And to fully understand that, I gotta talk about the warp a little bit. I'm gonna steal Bricky's metaphor for the warp by describing it as an ocean, not a lake. It's a place that's neither inherently good nor inherently evil, but it is vast, it is powerful, and there are a bunch of nasty gribblies living inside of it. And as a psyker, that person can channel the warp through themselves. Think of a psyker like a funnel. The stronger the psyker, the bigger the funnel, the more warp water they can send out through themselves in various forms. But there's a catch. There's all those little gribblies, and all the gunk associated with the gribblies. So as the water gets channeled through the funnel gets dirty, or worse still, one of those gribblies gets caught in the funnel, and there we have a demonic possession. No fun for anyone. Not even the demon. The demon's not even having fun. So the psychers need to be careful. They need to clean out their funnels, and more adept psychers may have a bunch of filters to keep their funnel clean. So psychers, very, very powerful, but very, very dangerous in their abilities, and that brings us back to Maggie. Because the Emperor knew all this shit, and he was going to a meeting with all the Primarchs and all his most trusted people. He gathered them all together and he said, okay, everybody, huddle up. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're not doing psychic stuff anymore. It's banned. It's out. And if you see anyone doing it, you need to kick their ass. And everyone was mostly okay with this. They were nodding along, except for Magnus. Magnus was like, well, what do you mean that the psychic stuff is gone? The psychic is my whole thing. It's my whole thing. If you take it away, then I'm just a dude. A really big dude, sure, but I'm still just a dude. And the Emperor said, nope, that's the new rule. And what's more, Magnus, you're doubly banned from all that shit. Because I know you've been researching that stuff and getting too knowledgeable about the Chaos Gods. We don't want to get anywhere near that. So Magnus said, okay. But here's the thing. He didn't stop. Instead, Magnus went back to his homeworld, his adopted homeworld of Prospero, and said to every human psyker out there, hey guys, I know the Imperium has banned all your stuff. You come to Prospero, we're going to have a big powwow, we're going to have a big psychic powwow, and we're going to get to grips with all this stuff as a group of psychics. The Emperor, of course, caught wind of this and was not pleased. As a matter of fact, he was a little bit mad. So we sent the Primarch Leman Russ over there to break things up. And Leman Russ did do that in the most very peaceful way possible. Just so very peaceful and so very humane. So Magnus was brought in line, or very possibly fled and went into hiding. But either way, he was done messing around, and the Emperor was free to go about his business. Because you see, the Emperor didn't just ban all contact with the warp, then go sit with one thumb in his mouth and the other up his ass. He had a plan. The Emperor was working on something called the Human Webway Project. Simplest of simple terms for simpletons, the Webway was a thing made by the Space Elves as a way to travel through the warp without actually traveling through the warp. Basically, you get all the nice travel upsides of going through the warp without having to worry about all the little gribblies getting at you. And the Emperor said, we need something like that for humanity. So he started building bridges, he started building tunnels, he started building roads. The Emperor became the single greatest civil engineer in the entire history of humanity, just like that. Or he would have been if the project ever got completed. But Oh no, who's that coming over the hill? It's Horus. There's enough videos, books, articles, telecommunications, and fucking smoke signals about the Horus heresy that I don't need to cover it here. Point is, Horus was about to fuck everything up for everybody. But it hadn't started just yet. Horus had all his pieces together, he had all his people, he had all his ships, had all his troops, and that was when Magnus caught wind of the whole situation. And he said, I need to go warn Dad. For all the shit that had gone down between them at this point, Magnus was still loyal to the Emperor. Or at the very least, still loved humanity because Magnus was actually one of the nicer Primarchs. So, he was ready to smother the heresy in its crib, rat on the whole operation before it was ready. There was just one teeny tiny massive problem. The Emperor was still on Terra, Earth, where you are right now. But Magnus was all the way on the other side of the Milky Way, and there was no way for him to get back in time. So what's a Psyker to do? Astral project, of course! So Magnus focused all his psychic energy, along with some help from his Space Marine Legion, the Thousand Suns, and with all that power, he shot himself, or shot his consciousness, whatever. He went through the warp. He went tunneling back to Terra, and he burst onto the scene and he said, Dad, Emperor, Horus is going to betray you. However, as a consequence of me tunneling through the warp to get here, I have created a massive tear in physical reality right next to Earth for all the little Griblies to pour out of. Oh, and better still, in my haste to Kool-Aid Man smash through here, I destroyed all your roads, tunnels, bridges, everything to do with the Webway project, so now it is fucked beyond all hope of repair. And if you've ever heard the expression, an ounce of good doesn't make up for a pound of failure, that's kind of what happened here. The Emperor said, I'm going to kill you. Magnus said, oh shit. And Horus said, Dad's treating you a little bit unfair, brother, banning your psychic powers and peacefully burning your home to the ground. Why don't you come work for me? And while you're at it, you can learn all about the warp straight from the warp gods themselves. How does that sound? So, with no other options, Magnus signed into the heresy and said, hey Tzeentch, you need a dedicated Space Marine Legion? And something that may or may not have been Tzeentch possibly may have said at some point, well, I already have 2 dedicated Space Marine Legions, I guess I could use 1 more. So you see, people say Magnus did nothing wrong, and that's just not true. Magnus did a lot of things wrong. He was told not to do things, and then he did those exact things. To the point that he and everyone else would have been way better off if he just sat in the corner. But that wasn't Maggie's way. He was driven to explore, driven to learn, and he learned himself right into his own grave. Yet, unlike other traitor Primarchs who totally deserved what they got, and some loyalist Primarchs, Magnus didn't deserve it. Magnus was forever loyal. Until he wasn't. Or maybe still is because Tzeentch. Who knows? And that was Magnus Did Nothing Wrong Explained. You're welcome.